3 spine-chilling true stories of sinister camping nightmares in the haunted deep woods revealed. The Thompson family was buzzing with excitement as they loaded their minivan. Bob, an IT manager, hollered to his wife, Sarah, to hurry it up, waving over a camping tent like it was a flag signaling bravery. Meanwhile, Mia, their reluctant 16-year-old, grappled with her phone, and little Ethan bounced around with a camping backpack that dwarfed him. "Let us unplug from technology and reconnect with nature," Bob declared, oblivious to the murmurs of dread that seemed to whirl around them, tales of lost campers echoing in the back of some neighbor's mind. The Pinewood State Forest, known locally as the Lost Woods, loomed menacingly as they drove deeper into its embrace. Shadows swayed beneath the towering pines, whispering secrets and drawing the family's delight into an ominous hush. Dusk descended as they reached their campsite, and Bob tried to lift spirits with campfire stories, laughter echoing into the darkening woods. But beneath the raucous laughter, a chill breeze swept through, rustling leaves and casting flickering shadows that danced near the flames, almost alive. Mia felt the mirth turn to an unsettling knot in her stomach. Was it just the cold, or were they being watched? Night fell, silencing their chuckles. Ethan snuggled in the tent, blissfully unaware. Mia was wide awake, scanning the creeping darkness beyond the thin fabric. A low growl, like some creature lurking nearby, sent shards of ice shooting down her spine. The combination of echoes and whispers unnerved her, twisting the comforting campfire light into something frightening. Goosebumps prickled her skin. Morning brought no relief. They drove to a nearby diner, where an old man with a twisted smile and sorrowful eyes seemed to have the weight of the forest on his shoulders. His words sliced through the cheer in the diner. "The darkness consumes the unwary," he warned. Bob laughed it off, but Mia felt the room shudder with uncomfortable energy, fables hiding truth behind choking laughter. As the sun hung high, the family explored deeper into the woods. The atmosphere shifted. It was suffocating heavy. They stumbled upon torn tents, abandoned equipment, and eerie symbols on the trees that told stories of other lives lost to the forest. Their laughter faded as whispers of their names rippled through the trees. Panic rose in Mia's chest, but Bob and Sarah tried to brush it off, claiming it was all just a spooky coincidence, nothing to worry about. Later, as night enveloped them, tension turned to terror once more. They huddled inside the tent, hearing soft crunching leaves and deliberate footfalls circling. Shadows flitted past their makeshift shelter. The old man's voice lingered in the air, reclaimed by chilling wind. The haunting history of the vanished tangled around them, and Bob and Sarah's bravado crumbled. They weren't just camping. They were prey in a game stitched together by the forest itself. Just then, an agonizing scream echoed through the night, rattling their resolve. The family burst from the tent, adrenaline pushing them through the brush, but with every step, a sinking realization hit them: the forest wasn't just a trap. They were running from the old man who had become part of it, a shadow bound to the darkness forever. But who was the true predator? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they broke through the tree line, horror rose like a tidal wave. The old man's twisted smile loomed in her mind, a nightmare come to life. The silence of the woods had never been so deafening, and a sense of dread crept up their spines. They thought they had escaped, but with each labored breath, Mia felt the realization sink in: it wasn't just the forest they needed to fear, but the secrets lurking within. And who knew how the old man fit in? Who could they trust as the night grew darker? The lost souls whispered louder now, desperate to share their tales. The Thompsons ran, hearts pounding, knowing that escape was only the beginning of something far more terrifying. The trees closed in around them, their gnarled branches scratching against the night sky like skeletal fingers reaching out for the Thompsons. Mia's breath hitched, every heartbeat echoing louder than the soft rustle of leaves. The air felt thick and stifling, almost as if the forest itself was alive, wrapping its dark arms around them, pulling them deeper into its haunted depths. "Where do we go?" Ethan whimpered, his small voice trembling. Sarah's face was pale, betraying fear despite her attempt to sound brave. "We need to find the car," she whispered fiercely, her eyes darting around, scanning the dark for movement. Bob nodded, determined, but his own panic bled through. "Stick together. We'll head back the way we came." With cautious steps, they moved, the darkness swallowing their voices. Tension grew heavier as the shadows deepened. Every snapped twig sent Mia's heart racing, the thought of being hunted gnawing at her insides. What was out there, waiting? She recalled the tales from the diner, the lost campers' images of them, frozen in fear, their faces lost to the forest's embrace. As they pushed through the underbrush, a howl pierced the stillness, cold and haunting, sending a jolt of fear through the family. It echoed around them, bouncing from tree to tree, growing louder, closer. "Hurry," Mia urged, terror pulling at her. They picked up the pace, hearts racing like frightened birds. Then, through the thicket, something shifted. A flicker of movement caught Mia's eye. She turned, her pulse pounding, praying it was just a deer, or some trick of the night. But no, a glimpse of pale skin, dark eyes. The old man. He stood at the edge of the clearing, a motionless silhouette against the foliage, watching them with that twisted smile once more. "Go back." The echo of his voice was warped, mingled with the growls that rose like a chorus around them. Panic ignited in Mia. "We have to leave. Now." She yanked Ethan forward, but it was too late. The forest erupted with howls, frantic and menacing, as shadows poured from the treeline. Dark forms materialized among the trees, filling the space with a choking stench, a sickly sweet odor that made Mia's stomach churn. "Bob!" Sarah screamed as the darkness closed in, swarming toward them, moving with an unnatural swiftness. Bob's eyes widened in disbelief, heart hammering. "Run!" he shouted, and they bolted into the night, branches clawing at their clothes as they zigzagged through trees. Footfalls pounded behind them, hunger and malice in the air. They darted past remnants of abandoned campsites, torn tents flapping eerily in the wind. The old man's whispers followed, echoing through the chaos. "Your names will fade just like the others." Mia stumbled, nearly falling as she turned to glance behind. The shadows surged closer, their forms human yet twisted, lost souls with hollow eyes and gaping mouths that seemed to scream silently. Desperation clawed at her throat. They were past the point of no return. The forest was claiming them, and there were no easy exits. Suddenly, a hand shot out from the brush, grabbing Mia and pulling her off the path. It was Ethan. "Don't leave me," he cried, terror painting his face. She yanked him closer, fighting the tide of darkness that threatened to pull them all under. In the chaos, a sudden realization dawned on Mia. They couldn't just run from the forest. They had to confront it, face the terror head-on. "There must be a way to break this curse," she shouted, her voice cracking against the weight of despair. But would facing the truth only plunge them deeper into darkness? Just as hope flickered, she caught sight of something glimmering, an old, tarnished charm hidden in the hollow of a tree trunk. Was it a sign, or a lure meant to trap them eternally? Would they dare reach for it, or would the darkness consume them first? As they hesitated, shadows rounded in closer, and the forest's whispers sharpened into a chilling cacophony. What would they choose? And what awaited them on the other side of the decision? The hunt was far from over. Mia's mind raced, the shimmering charm caught in a web of her tenuous hope and paralyzing fear. The shadows moved even closer, twisting like smoke as chaos churned around them. "Do we grab it?" Ethan urged, his voice a mere whisper of panic, eyes wide and unblinking. She took a breath, trying to think through the swirling dread. "We have to. Could be our only chance." Mia reached for the charm, the cold metal tingling against her fingertips. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, hissing as if repelled by the very idea of their touch. "What is it?" Bob asked hurriedly, glancing at the gathering figures that loomed just outside their periphery. I don't know, Mia admitted, the uncertainty clashing painfully with her resolve. Maybe it's a key to something or a protective talisman. Ignoring the instinct that screamed at her to step back, she tugged the charm free from the tree trunk. As it came loose, a hollow roar filled the air, a sound that churned like thunder in the bowels of the earth. The ground beneath them trembled, and the shadows shrank slightly, as if the act of pulling away the charm had weakened their hold. Run, Sarah shouted. They didn't need urging. They sprinted, leaving the retreating shadows behind momentarily. But the howls returned, angrier than before, flooding their senses like a relentless tide. Branches lashed at them, sharp and unyielding, and they stumbled deeper into the dark expanse of the forest, seeking a way out. Mia felt her pulse racing, every heartbeat a reminder of their peril. What if it's not enough? Ethan panted, his small legs straining to keep pace. What if we're still trapped? Mia clutched the charm tightly, its metal cool against her palm. We're not trapped. Not yet. Ahead, flickers of light pierced the suffocating darkness. A campfire? Hope sparked in Mia's chest. Keep going. We're almost there. But as they approached, fear gripped her. The light twisted and warped, taking the shape of a battered, forgotten campsite. A tent lay torn and lifeless, discarded belongings littering the ground. Is anyone there? Bob shouted, but the only reply was the crackling of dying flames and the smothering silence that followed. Heart pounding, Mia stepped closer to the fire, her breath fogging in the cold air. Shadows sprung from the tree line once more, their grotesque forms emerging like demons from a nightmare. Stay back, Sarah cried, holding Ethan tightly. We shouldn't be here. Suddenly, the old man's figure materialized at the edge of the clearing, eyes like black voids, his twisted grin gleaming in the firelight. Your fate is tied to this forest. Like a string to a noose, Mia's grip tightened around the charm. What do you want from us? She yelled, anger mingling with fear. His laugh echoed, chilling. To remind you that fading is inevitable just like so many before you. With a jolt of defiance, Mia raised the charm. We're not fading. We'll fight this. The old man's laugh turned into a sinister hiss. Fight? You think you can fight the inevitable? The forest doesn't allow escape. In that moment she made a choice. We have to break the curse. Whatever this is, she glanced around at the shadows closing in again. It can't be stronger than us. But even as she spoke, the darkness surged, a wave of hunger crashing over them, ready to devour. The glowing ember of the charm pulsed in her palm, and as she raised it high, something shifted in the air. The shadows faltered, briefly blinded by the light. Now, Bob shouted, urging them back, cutting through the fear. But retreat was no longer an option. Mia took a deep breath, confronting the encroaching darkness. Would standing their ground be enough? Or was the forest simply revealing its true face, one that swallowed hope whole? The demonic laughter grew louder, echoing their deepest fears. If they unleashed what lay dormant in the charm, would they call upon help or doom? Together, she shouted, gripping hands with her family, ready to face the darkness. But what awaited them was more terrifying than they could ever imagine as the shadows lunged. The earth trembled beneath their feet, bracing for the battle that would determine their fate. Would the charm hold the key to salvation or unlock their ultimate demise? The forest hungered, and only the bravest would unveil its final truth. The shadows pulsated, a living mass of darkness that seemed to inhale the last glimmers of light around the campfire. Mia's heart thumped louder than the distant thundering roar that still rumbled beneath them. The charm in her hand glowed brighter, illuminating their terrified faces, and casting eerie flickers on the surrounding trees, which now seemed to listen, waiting. Is this thing even working? Ethan gasped, his voice trembling like a fragile leaf. The corners of his mouth quivered, panic creeping into his young features. I don't know, Mia shouted back, her voice cracking, but we can't stop now. The sound of shuffling branches echoed, a clear signal that the shadows weren't finished with them. Fear clawed at the back of Mia's throat. If they could see it, did it see them too? Suddenly, the old man lunged forward, his eyes alight with a maddening glee. "Your spirits will be my playthings soon," he screeched, the shadows hissing hungrily as they fed off his malice. "Run to the fire," Sarah yelled, her small body trembling against Ethan's. The three of them scrambled closer, with a desperate hope that warmth could somehow defend them against the encroaching night as they reached the flames. The old man's laughter echoed in their ears, a malicious chant twisting through the darkness. "You're not safe here. The fire is just a flicker before the smoke swallows you." Mia raised the charm higher, feeling a surge of hope within her. "Leave us alone," she screamed. "We want to go home." But just as the shadows retreated slightly, unsure, the earth beneath them gasped. The ground split with a long, angry crackle. A soft, low moan rose from the fissure, and Mia's breath caught. A chilling chill swept through the air, freezing her bones. "What is happening?" Bob shouted, panic driving each word, his eyes darting from the shadows to the ground. Suddenly, from the fissure, ghostly figures began to rise. Wispy shapes of lost souls, their eyes hollow and locked in agony, began to drift towards the light of the fire, yet their presence only darkened the space around them. No, this isn't happening," Ethan cried, falling back as the realization hit him. Mia's palms grew slick with sweat as the reality crushed down. "We need to leave. Now." But where? The forest had become their prison, a maze filled with reminders of despair. "Back to the trees," Bob shouted, his instincts taking over. "We might have a chance." Just as they turned to flee, shadows surged forward again, twisting and screaming in delight. The very essence of the forest was alive, and it craved their fear. "Do you hear it?" Mia whispered, losing strength. "It's singing a wail uncoiled through the trees, a haunting melody that tugged at her mind, promising peace even as it wrapped its tendrils around them. The more they resisted, the more it felt like the shadows were weaving their despair into the very fabric of their being. Mia swallowed hard, squeezing the charm tighter. What does it want? She couldn't help but feel her pulse quicken, despair mixing with a fierce determination to hold on to whatever hope remained as they darted away from the light. Plunging back into the depths of the forest, the ground trembled violently, and the shadows drew back, no longer content to merely toy with them. They were preparing for a final assault. "What did we unleash?" Sarah cried out, fear pooling in her chest. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Mia realized one thing amid the chaos. They couldn't outpace the past. Whatever darkness they had awakened, it would not stop until it had claimed them. Together, Mia shouted once more, her voice barely above a whisper but fueled by the weight of her fear. "We have to face it." In an instant, the shadows closed in, and the figures from the fissure surged forward. Their hollow cries echoed in the forest, drowning out everything else, and within that cacophony, one truth pierced through all. The charm was a birthright of power, but at what cost? Gripping it tighter as the darkness swirled, Mia felt a terrifying pull toward the heart of the forest, toward the haunting gaze of its might. What if the charm was more than just a key? What if it was a curse waiting to be unleashed? With shadows pressing in, they stood on the brink, ready to discover whether their stand against the gathering storm would resolve their nightmares or unravel a sinister fate that had been waiting for centuries. The forest throbbed, and darkness whispered of choices yet to be made. Would the charm unveil salvation or damnation? The shadows lunged forward, devouring the space between them like ravenous beasts. Mia squeezed the charm, its warmth barely stifling the icy panic gripping her heart. The air thickened as if the forest itself was drawing a breath, preparing for something terrible. "What is that thing?" Ethan's voice trembled, petrified, as he pointed at one of the spectral figures. Its face was a blur, a fusion of agony and rage. The cries wrapped around them, weaving a net of despair that tightened with every heartbeat. "Keep moving," Mia ordered, her instinct overriding the terror threatening to paralyze her. They darted deeper into the woods, every twist and turn seeming more sinister than the last. Enormous trees loomed overhead, their gnarled branches clawing at the night sky like desperate fingers, yearning for something lost. The ground shifted beneath them. They stumbled, the roots writhing like snakes, tripping them into the embrace of the shadows. Bob fell, and Mia turned just in time to see him vanishing beneath a wave of darkness. "Bob!" Mia screamed, but the shadows hissed back. "He-s ours." Ethan's eyes widened as he realized the truth. "We can't save him." His voice broke, thick with despair. "Just run." They pushed onward, the disbelief and horror of losing their friend flooding their minds. Each flicker of the charm pulsed like a heartbeat, a fragile thread of hope in the crushing darkness. But the whispers grew louder, melodious yet menacing, luring them deeper into the forest's heart. Suddenly, Sarah stumbled upon an ancient pedestal, overgrown with vines and shadowed by the towering trees. Carved into its surface were images, faces twisted in terror, their mouths open in eternal screams. One figure bore a striking resemblance to the old man, the puppet master of their nightmare. "This is where the charm must belong," Mia shouted, having a wild idea. "We can return it." "No," Ethan cried, pulling her back. "Are you crazy? It's a trap." But the shadows coiled closer, thrumming with energy. They felt a pull towards the pedestal, an inexplicable urge to place the charm within its carved recess. The wailing intensified, weaving into the fabric of their thoughts, each note promising a release from the growing dread that clouded their minds. "Fight it! Don't listen!" Sarah shouted, shaking her head feverishly. But Mia felt the charm's warmth crescendo, a beacon summoning her every instinct. "What if this can save us?" Mia pleaded, grappling with fear and desperation. "What if it dooms us all?" Ethan snapped back, taking a step back as shadows grasped at his heels. But the urgency in Mia's eyes was tangible. The urge to fight, to claim their lives back from the abyss told her they had little choice. With shaking hands, Mia stepped toward the pedestal, heart racing like a freight train, each breath fighting against the darkness curling around their ankles. Shadows twisted violently, reacting to her movement, but she remained resolute. The charm lit up, casting brilliant shadows against the swirling blackness, and she pressed it into the cold stone. A shriek erupted, reverberating through the air as if the forest itself was in agony. The figures in the darkness shrank away, recoiling from the pedestal as if it burned them. The ground trembled, the trees creaked ominously. "What have you done?" Ethan shouted, his scream lost amidst the chaos that unfolded. The pedestal glowed, and Mia's heart leapt with fear and hope. As the shadows retreated, the fissure in the ground began to quiver violently. A deep rumble escaped, echoing ancient curses, unleashing waves of energy that sent tremors through their bodies. In that instant, a vision crashed into Mia's mind. Fragments of memories, each moment more horrific than the last, screamed of those who touched the charm before, the ones who had awakened the restless souls bound to the forest. Mia glanced at her friends' fearful faces, gripping each other tightly, as if reality was about to shatter around them. "What have we just unleashed?" The ground split further, and from the crack emerged a shadow more colossal than the rest. "We woke something," whispered Sarah, backing away, tension crackling in the air. Something worse as the monstrous form loomed, eyes blazing with an unholy fire. Mia realized they were not the first to be ensnared by the charm. The heavy weight of a dark legacy loomed over them, and their plight was far from over. "Get ready," Mia shouted, voice defiant against the encroaching doom. But in that moment, a question echoed louder than all else. Could the charm truly be their salvation, or was it the very source of their damnation? The shadows leapt forward, and as they prepared for the fight of their lives, the forest roared in triumph. What awaited them now seemed like nothing less than a reckoning. The ground trembled beneath their feet, sending vibrations up through their legs. The colossal shadow, shrouded in swirling darkness, rose higher and spread wide as if consuming the very air around them. Mia's mind raced. They had drawn the attention of something ancient and furious. "Run!" Ethan shouted, leaping to grab Sarah's arm. But Mia stood rooted in place, staring into the glowing eyes of the creature. They weren't just any eyes. They held eons of rage and suffering, an abyss of despair few could confront. "Mia, please!" Sarah's voice was frantic. The moment snapped Mia back to reality, and she felt the surge of adrenaline kick in. Their survival depended on flight, not confrontation. She turned, tears stinging her eyes as she caught a last glimpse of the pedestal. What had they awakened? They sprinted away, the branches whipped against them like vengeful hands, but it was the cries of the forest that chased them most. The whispers morphed into screams, echoing through the trees, as if the entire woods protested their escape. Cold sweat trickled down Mia's spine. They couldn't let it take them. There's a cave up ahead. Ethan yelled, spotting a dark maw amidst the trees. It loomed like an uncertain promise, a possible sanctuary against the horror they had unleashed. "Go, go," Mia urged, pushing through the underbrush, her heart pounding louder than the pulsating dark behind them. They veered into the cave just as the shadow surged closer, tendrils of darkness clawing at the air. Inside, the cave smelled of damp earth and something worse, decay. They huddled together, breathless, clutching each other in the tight space. Silence swallowed them momentarily. The frantic shouts from the forest faded, replaced by the damp, rhythmic dripping of water somewhere in the dark. "We can't stay here," Ethan whispered, his voice barely a murmur, still fraught with panic. "It'll find us." Mia leaned in, feeling the weight of their choice. "We awaken the charm, we face the darkness," she said, her throat dry. "But if we don't, we'll never be free." "The charm, it's a part of this," Sarah murmured, her gaze distant. "It's been here longer than us. Maybe it knows something we don't, or it's connected to that creature." The tension thickened around them, every moment feeling like a slow descent into despair. What had been a tool for protection now felt like a double-edged sword. Did they dare take it back? "Maybe it can be a trap for it," Mia suggested, voice trembling. "We can turn it against whatever's out there." "Are you sure?" Ethan's face was pale, fear flickering in his eyes. "What if it backfires?" Mia's heart raced as she thought of Bob, lost to the shadows. They had to try. With trembling hands, she retrieved the charm, its warmth beating in her palm like a heart. The air around them shifted, growing thicker, charged with energy. The whispers returned, swirling in a cacophony of voices, urging her to release the charm as she moved deeper into the cave's darkness. "Come on," Ethan urged, grabbing Mia's other arm. "We're running out of time." As they stepped deeper into the cave, the shadows writhing outside seemed to retreat, as though waiting for the inevitable. But Mia felt the charm pulse in her grasp, resonating with a deeper magic, and, for a fleeting moment, she wondered if this was a mistake. Together, Mia swallowed hard. "We can do this." They linked hands, a human chain defying the encroaching dread. But just as Mia began to concentrate, a blast of cold air erupted from behind the cave, and a familiar growl rumbled through the darkness, sending chills cascading down her spine. "Please," Mia's voice caught in her throat as she turned, terror seizing her heart. What awaited them in the depths of the unknown was the last thing they expected, a figure they thought they'd never see again, a face from a nightmare they hoped to bury. Bob, his eyes were hollow, devoid of hope, as shadows clung to him like a second skin. "Help me," he whispered, voice cracked and pleaded, the darkness pulsating around him. Mia's hand shook, uncertainty clawing at her insides. Was this truly their friend, or a twisted mirage created by the forest itself? "Is he really?" Sarah gasped, fear and confusion darting through her expression. The shadows hungrily gripped Bob's feet, slowly dragging him back into the black void of the forest, a reminder of their failure. "Do we save him or do we fight?" Ethan shouted, desperation creeping in. Mia's heart raced, every second tightening the noose of dread around them. What was the right choice? What if saving him meant sealing their fate? As the shadows closed in, the tension peaked, boiling over into a choice that could end them all. Would they dare go back? Or would they forge ahead into a darkness that promised both horror and the chance of survival? The choice loomed before them, heavy with consequences and steeped in fear. Mia stared at Bob, the figure of her friend seemingly trapped between realms. Shadows licked at his ankles, pulsing like a living thing, thirsting for his flesh. The weight of their decision bore down on her, and for a moment, she felt paralyzed, caught in the prison of indecision. "We can't lose him," Ethan screamed, lunging forward. But as he did, Bob's eyes widened in pain, consumed by the darkness surrounding him. "Ethan, wait!" Mia shouted, but it was too late. With one desperate charge, Ethan was out of their huddle and plunging into the shadows. The ice-cold air surged around him, tightening like a noose. "Get back!" Mia cried, fear sparking like fire in her veins. But Ethan staggered, caught by some unseen force. The shadows twisted, their whispers' claws raking at his legs, urging him deeper. "Mia!" Ethan's voice cracked, raw with terror. "Help me!" Mia felt the primal instinct of fight or flight thrumming within her. She could only watch as Ethan flailed, swallowed half-buried in the darkness that seemed to pulse and breathe, hungry for his fear. "Ethan, fight it, don't give in." She felt tears sliding down her cheeks, blurring her vision. For a fleeting moment, the cave felt alive, every droplet of water dripping with malicious glee. Bob's voice once again reached her, cobwebbed with despair. "You have to save him. Mia, I can't hold on much longer." But could they trust him? The shadows twisted again, sending a shudder through the ground. "Please." Bob's voice fell to a whisper, drenched in hopelessness. "Help me. Stop. Stay back." Mia shouted, shaking her head. "You're not him, Bob. You're just a shadow." The shadows roared as if angered by her defiance, rushing towards her with fervor. Unseen hands raked at her back, dragging her closer to the darkness. She stumbled, feet sliding on the damp floor. She could feel Ethan's desperation like a tangible force. It gripped her heart, drowning her in dread. How could she choose between them? "Take the charm, Mia," Ethan gasped, raising his hand, straining against the shadows pulling him. "It's our only chance." Mia's heart raced as she felt the pulse of the charm. It thudded in her pocket, steady and reassuring, a beacon in the chaos. Should she trust it? The cave swallowed her doubt. The darkness was too tangible, too enraged. "No," she shouted, her breath sharp with terror. "You'll get lost. We can't let it take us all." But as she hesitated, darkness surged from the cave like a tide. Ethan screamed as his form began to flicker, swallowed by the black void inch by inch. Mia felt the weight of the decision constrict her in a split second. Her fear transformed into resolve. Maybe this charm could bind the shadows. She had to believe it. With shaking hands, she clutched the charm tightly, its warmth igniting a small glimmer of hope. "Let him go," she cried out, forcing the words into the air. "We release you from your hunger." The shadows recoiled at her voice, as if hit by a flash of light. The whispers turned to furious growls, yearning to silence her. "No," Ethan wailed, caught somewhere between realms. And there, amid the chaos, Mia saw something flicker in the darkness, an elusive shimmer, the hint of a path. "Ethan," she screamed, reaching for him. The tendrils pulling him slackened for a heartbeat. "Take my hand." He lunged desperately towards her, a battle against insatiable darkness. Just as his fingers brushed hers, the shadows twisted violently, a heart-stopping roar erupting that vibrated through the cave. "Hold on," Mia yelled, pushing with all her might against the encroaching gloom. The charm nearly burned her skin as she channeled her fear into it. An explosion of light burst forth, illuminating the cave in blinding brilliance. Shadows shrieked, but the connection between Mia and Ethan held firm, a tenuous lifeline. Yet within that blinding light, Bob's hollowed eyes burned brighter. They seemed to speak volumes, words unuttered but understood. And then, everything went silent as darkness drew back in horror. Mia lost her grip. The cave trembled as the shadows writhed, and only one lingering thought swirled amidst the chaos. What if releasing the charm meant losing them all? Mia's scream echoed through the cave, forever suspended between choices made And yet to come, what would she unleash upon the world when the light finally faded? The light flickered out, collapsing in on itself, and darkness rushed back like a tidal wave. Mia blinked, feeling the cold, sweaty grip of fear around her throat. The connection to Ethan severed, leaving only silence and dread. She staggered back, stumbling through the cave, heart racing, listening for any sign of her friends. "Ethan," she called, her voice echoing in the cavernous void, swallowed by the shadows. Panic surged through her as she struggled to breathe. The shadows thickened, crawling along the walls like living serpents, inching closer, hungry for something fresh. Bob's figure was nearly obscured, his features distorted, as if the darkness had taken a bite out of him. "Mia," he rasped, his voice laced with desperation. He was slipping, fading. "Help before it takes me completely." Mia's heart twisted. Could she trust him? The thought lingered like poison in her mind. She tightened her grip on the charm, its warmth now replaced by an uncomfortable heat, almost burning in her palm. "Bob, no," she gasped, fighting a wave of nausea. You're not Bob anymore. You can't be." But the shadows hissed, whispering dark promises, pulling at her sanity. They beckoned her closer, urging her to accept the inevitable. Yet, even in the chaos, something inside her flared to life, an undeniable flicker of resolve. "Stop it," she shouted into the consuming void. "I won't let you take him." The shadows screeched, recoiling, as if Mia's defiance was a sting. They waved and danced, his form almost solidifying for a moment, his eyes flickering with the last remnants of humanity. "Use it, Mia, the charm. Please," he cried, as darkness clawed at his throat. With a surge of courage, she took a step closer, desperation fueling her. "I'm here, Bob. Hold on." Suddenly, the ground quaked beneath her, uprooting the darkness swirling around. A massive fissure split open beside her, the shadows swirling down into it like a whirlpool. "Mia!" Ethan's voice sliced through the chaos, raw and urgent. "Mia!" She turned, and there he was, emerging from the depth of shadows, his face pale but alive, a reminder of hope. Her heart flooded with relief, coursing adrenaline through her veins. But the moment shattered. The shadows, furious at their defeat, lashed out with a vengeance. "Ethan, the charm," she shouted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We have to do it together." As the darkness licked at their feet, its whispers surged into a cacophony of madness, tempting them both to surrender to despair. On three, Ethan breathed, taking position beside her, the edges of their worlds colliding. 1, 2 together, they raised the charm, the air thick with their shared fear and determination. 3, they yelled, both voices melding into one, as they launched it into the chasm that gaped beneath them. For a heartbeat, just a heartbeat, the world stopped. Then the charm erupted in a blinding flash, sending ribbons of light spiraling down. The shadows screeched like a wounded beast, recoiling desperately as the light cut through the dark, illuminating the cave in an otherworldly glow. Yet in the midst of that brilliance, Mia felt a flicker of a dark shape lingering behind her, lurking just out of view. Something still held the shadows in check, an unseen force tethering them to this realm. "Mia, look out!" Ethan cried, just as a clawed hand shot out from the darkness, snatching her wrist with a vice-like grip. A sheer wave of terror surged through her, pulling her toward the abyss, the chilling horror of being swallowed whole. Her screams echoed, reverberating against the walls, melding with the howls of the shadows. As the grip tightened, realization crashed into her. The darkness wasn't just going to let them go. "Trust the charm," Ethan yelled, reaching for her. As the light began to fade, uncertainty gripped Mia's heart. What they had unleashed with their desperation might be much worse than the fate they feared to escape. And then everything went dark again, leaving only chilling whispers winding their way through the cave. Now, would they face the true terror waiting in the depths, or emerge with their lives intact? The grip tightened around Mia's wrist, cold fingers digging into her skin, drawing her into the abyss. For a moment, the light flickered around her like a dying star, illuminating grotesque shadows that twisted and writhed in a dance of despair. Ethan's eyes widened in horror, desperation etched across his face. "Hang on, Mia," he shouted, lunging forward. But the darkness was too powerful, too hungry. It pulled her closer, the claws of dark magic scraping against her resolve. She could feel the shadows whispering, promising her peace in exchange for submission. Their voices slithered into her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like vines squeezing the life from a tree. "Mia, fight it." Ethan's voice shattered the murmurs, snapping her back to the present. She focused on his face, the tangible spark of his determination lighting the suffocating dark. It fueled something inside her, driving back the dread. "Ethan, help me." Her voice was strained, swallowing down terror as she felt her body teeter on the edge of oblivion. Summoning the last remnants of her strength, Mia yanked her wrist free from the suffocating grip. The shadows hissed and raged, as if her resistance had wounded their very essence. She tore herself away, stumbling backwards, colliding with the wall of the cave. In that moment, the magic of the charm pulsed again, a dim glow pushing back against the tide of darkness. Mia clawed her way to her feet, desperately trying to gather her thoughts. Ethan's hand reached out to her, and she ran toward him, the shadows gnashing and howling in frustration as she reached him. They stood side by side, breathing heavily. But the flicker of hope didn't last. A low rumble resounded around them, shaking the cave to its foundations, and the fissure widened beneath their feet. Air rushed into the void with a deafening roar. "Stay together," Ethan shouted as the darkness coiled around them, sensing their weakness. Suddenly, tentacles of shadow surged forth, reaching for them as if alive. With quick thinking, Mia threw the charm in front of them, the last source of light they had left. It exploded in a flash, illuminating the darkness for just a breath. But the moment was enough. They could see it now, the flicker of movements in the shadows, a tangible entity lurking in exultation. The darkness writhed and twisted, morphing into shapes, faces contorted in agony, figures lost to the depths. One shape emerged, more defined than the rest. A gnarled face stared back at them, hollow eyes burning with insatiable hunger. "Mia," it hissed, a suffocating familiarity washing over her. "You can't escape." It was the face of something she recognized, a mixture of all the lost souls consumed by fear. Having seen enough, Mia screamed, and they darted left, skirting the dark figure as it lunged for them, arms outstretched like an executioner's noose. They raced further into the cave, the ground trembling beneath their feet. Glimpses of the outside world flickered in their minds' sunshine, fresh air, life. But the shadows closed in on them relentlessly, pulling at their fears, gnashing their teeth. "We have to find a way out," Mia gasped, adrenaline surging. But where? The darkness ensnared them. Every turn was met with more hollow faces, faces that screamed silently for help, faces that mirrored their own horror. "We can't give in," Ethan urged, but his voice trembled. The shadows laughed, a chorus of madness enveloping them, whispering secrets and sins. Then, from the corner of her eye, Mia noticed a faint glimmer, an exit. She squinted, her breath hitching in hope. Could they find a breakthrough in this nightmare? "Mia, wait!" Ethan cried as she rushed towards the glow, but the shadows lashed out, engulfing his shout as she pressed on. As she neared the light, a piercing sensation stabbed into her chest. The darkness surged, countering her every move, determined to drown her in shadows. "Mia!" Ethan's panicked voice echoed behind. She didn't turn back. She couldn't afford to. The warmth of the glow wrapped around her fingers as she reached for it, her heart pounding. But just as she thought she had it, the light flickered, dimming as if it too feared the shadows. "Mia, don't let go!" Ethan screamed. In that split second, questions swirled. What would be waiting on the other side? Safety or another layer of torment? With a final burst of courage, she lunged for the light, everything else fading away. Would she break free, or was this just another delusion created by the darkness? The moment hung in the air like the blade of a guillotine. Mia's fingers brushed against the warmth of the light, and it surged through her, wrapping her in a cocoon of hope and energy. She closed her eyes, pulling Ethan's voice into her heart, feeling the dark shadows attempt to swallow her whole. There was no fear now, just the undeniable urge to survive. Together, she yelled, her voice slicing through the clamor of despair. As she lunged for the light, her body propelled forward like it had a will of its own. The shadows recoiled, hissing in fury, fumbling to trap her again. But then a burst of brilliant energy erupted, exploding like the sun in the night sky. The darkness shrank as if burned by the radiance, and Mia felt the warmth of Ethan's hand clasping hers, holding tight. "Keep going," they shouted, their voices harmonizing in defiance. Together, they bolted beyond the shadows, arms stretching toward the exit that shimmered with promise. More than light, it was the taste of freedom. With each stride, the shadows grew fainter, until they became distant whispers, fleeting echoes. Mia focused on the growing glow ahead, pulling Ethan close as they barreled through the final veil of dark. The moment they leaped through the threshold, they stumbled out, collapsing onto the newly sunlit forest floor, panting, gasping. Relief washed over them, flooding through her body like a refreshing stream. They made it. As they turned to look behind them, however, a shadow flickered briefly at the entrance, a reminder that not all darkness was banished. "Bob," Mia called, heart seizing in panic, but all that remained was silence, heavy and filled with the weight of what had passed. The shadows had lost their hunger, but their toll was evident. Fear washed over her once more as she realized the cost of their escape, the looming reminder of Bob's absence chilling her bones. Are we free?" Ethan gasped beside her, terror still lingering in his big, brown eyes. Mia caught her breath, shaking her head slowly, tears pooling as she glanced at the trees standing vigil around them. "Not entirely, but we can fight this. We just need to find a way to banish him." With determination, they rose, surveying the forest's edge. There was the path they had run, the sense of familiarity fueling their resolve. "We need to get help," Mia said, trying to gather her racing thoughts. "We can't let the darkness win." Ethan nodded vigorously, brushing away the lingering shadows from his mind. "Mom, we need to find them." But as they stepped away, Mia felt a strange sense of finality wash over her. She glanced back toward the cave, a pang of sorrow twisting in her chest. Bob wasn't just a casualty. He'd been their friend, and there was no reclaiming him from the curse of the lost woods. "Let us get out of here," she said quietly, grief choking her words. Chris and Sarah would need them as they trekked through the forest, each step closer to the diner. Each sound of rustling leaves lessened the burden on her heart just a little. The sun climbed higher, illuminating the path ahead. They faced the world beyond the trees together, refusing to let the darkness define them. Suddenly, the air shifted. The whispers of the forest, which had once raged like a storm, faded to an eerie calm. Twisted phantoms skulked around the trees, but Mia held onto the light that sparkled within her. She tucked the charm tightly in her pocket, a bittersweet reminder of their trials. Its warmth assured her they'd conquered something profound. They stumbled upon the muddy driveway where the minivan awaited. Its familiar outline was a sight for sore eyes. "Sarah." As they reached the car, Mia's heart thudded with a breeze of hope as the door slid open. She saw her mother's flooding relief wash over her face. The family embraced in a tight circle, the warmth anchoring them like a shield against the dark. "Oh, thank God," Sarah cried, her voice breaking. "We thought we'd lost you." "Never," Mia replied, pushing through the tears, pulling her family close. They would heal, acknowledging the losses, but their light was strong. Fear might return, clawing at their edges, but they stood firm, ready to battle. They would find Bon, confront the shadows, and understand what they had unleashed in the comfort of family. The Thompsons knew one undeniable truth. Once you truly faced your fears, sometimes, you come out the other side stronger than before. As the minivan pulled away from the haunted whispers of the lost woods, the trees stood tall, watching, waiting. But this battle was far from over. And although the shadow of uncertainty loomed, hope flickered firmly, knowing one thing for sure: they would never face darkness alone again. If you enjoyed this edge-of-your-seat storytelling, don't wait another second. You need to subscribe now to catch the next wild adventure, and smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions. What did you think of the Thompsons' terrifying journey? Please instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need this conclusion just as much as you do. Let us spread the light together.